So I'm sitting here with Laura Babcock, famous for the O Show, famous for Power Group Communications, famous in lots of ways in our community for the awesome work that you do in the media, in the community. Why are you involved? How did you get involved in the How's the Weather campaign?
Well, I got involved with How's the Weather when I heard from women like yourself about what's really going on in Hamilton. I had absolutely no idea that 300 times women are turned away from a shelter every month in this town. And that as a woman with a home, I might live to 81 in Canada, and as a homeless woman, they're looking at 39. And I just turned 40. So the thought that, you know, the disparity in terms of life expectancy, and the fact that in a city where, yes, we have a lot of issues of poverty, but I had no idea that there weren't enough beds, there wasn't enough shelter for women. As soon as I heard that, I thought absolutely, you know, we need to be involved. And I talked to my team at Power Group, and, you know, we just thought about it. We thought, what's, you know, I remember that Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs that I learned in high school, where, you know, if you don't have shelter as a fundamental need as a human being, you can't possibly get through the rest of the pyramid of life. And so we thought, well, you know, what's fundamental to having shelter? Well, look out the window. In Canada, it's very hot, or it's very cold, or it's, you know, very rainy, or all these different seasons. And having a home, I don't have to worry about how the weather affects the rest of my life. But we thought, let's ask the question, that social lubricant question of Canadian conversation. Let's ask the question, how's the weather? And then let's try to get people to connect it to the thought that, well, you know, the weather affects what I might wear outside or where I might go today, but I don't have to worry about shelter. But if I can think, how's the weather, and then think of our homeless women and the fact that they have no shelter, the weather is a life or death scenario for them, we just thought that that very fundamental campaign question might help people to understand the need and to put the resources there to make the difference.
Right. So, and you've just finished interviewing 7 women with lived experience. Tell me a little bit about the impact of that on you, and tell me a little bit about maybe a highlight of those stories. What did you learn that's kind of new for you?
Well, what was new for me was, you know, I didn't really realize the connection as strong as it is with things like struggling with mental illness or being in a domestic abuse situation. You know, how these women found themselves surprised to be homeless. You know, one was working, and then the company laid off. She went to try to find school and found herself unable to find a place affordable to live. And one moved to Canada with a promise of a bright future with her husband and daughter, and there was a domestic violence situation, and suddenly she's in a new country with no resources or supports and is homeless. You know, it wasn't as though they saw it coming. You know, they did everything that they could, and then, you know, couch surfed, stayed with friends, did everything they could, and then found themselves in a place where they're one of these women trying to get a space at a shelter. So what I learned is that there's all kinds of roots to why it happens. You know, there's a lot of stigma around it that I might have been a part of believing in the past because I just was ignorant of why women end up homeless. And that, you know, it's something that once they're in it, they have tremendous courage to get through it. I heard one woman's story, Miracle, and she's talking about it like it's one of the best things that ever happened to her because she found her strength and God found people to bring to her life. Like, you hear this stuff and you think, wow, I had no idea how easy it is to become homeless. I had no idea the gaps that exist in the system and the strength of these women. You know, we have stereotypes, and they're not accurate.
So if you were standing in front of City Council right now and you were asked the question, you know, what can we do to make a difference, what would you want to say to them?
I want them to understand, as I have learned just talking to these women, that if we can take care of the housing need, and I think that's a moral imperative, right? Every woman deserves a home in this country. We have the resources as a nation to make that happen. It's not okay that we let women live in these circumstances, or men, frankly. I think if Council understood that safe, clean housing can allow these women to contribute to society, to become, you know, who they're meant to be, to raise their children. This is supposed to be the best place to raise a child. Well, how do some of these women who are just trying to get, you know, the mold out of their bathrooms or the bed bugs out of their children's clothing, how is that the best scenario to raise a child? If that's what we're going to do as a city, then we have to make sure that our women have a safe place to be, and that our women with children as well have a safe place to raise those children. So it comes back to a moral imperative. Either you believe that this is the kind of society we're meant to have, where women have shelter, or you don't. And if you do, then we need to work together to make it happen.
Great. And thanks so much for all your support in this campaign, Laura. It's been fabulous.
Thanks for telling me about it.
Oh, you're welcome. And let's just keep pressing on. Thank you.
Yeah, because the weather's got to get better.
That's right. Thanks, Laura.
My pleasure.